Me? Okay, okay, cool.
Do it. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So yeah, let's what you some sort of an intro and then we can or introductions or however
Yeah.
you want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself and just a little how whatever you want to share
Okay.
about yourself briefly.
Um, I'm Megan Macdonald. I live in Canada. I have a background that has brought me to this point in a way that you never could have seen it coming on the other side. But when you look back, the pieces start to fit and you see how each step did get you to this point. Um, the really and I say that partially because I feel like I am now a Shivambhu guide facilitator for other people to find this magical medicine that was within and always available. And the short version is like deep interest and study of theater into
Mm.
event management and protocol work, which is another type of theater, into university teaching, um, which then, and research, which led me into studying how people perform belief.
Mm.
And the performance of belief is deeply embodied. And that helped break open into the more spiritual. I was always interested in the spiritual, but I was still very much working in the expected world.
Mm.
And the academic study, interestingly, actually broke that open more because it really is a way to push the intellect to its edges in the best way. When it works in its best way, it really pushes the intellect to its edges, and then you start questioning things differently.
Yeah.
And so it took me on the mystical journey. It doesn't necessarily do that, but it did it for me. And so that then took me into this whole other world of going, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And I met both my spiritual teacher in a physical, like as a human spiritual teacher, and Shivambhu in the same 2 week period. And so for me, those are intrinsically linked. That when I was ready for it, you can either say my teachers called me or my teachers
Mhm.
appeared, right? There's different ways to frame that. But for me, the spiritual journey is so completely linked with the being introduced to Shivambhu by my yoga teacher, training teacher. So all of that to say, I've been working with Shivambhu now for 10 years, just over 10 years, and I've fresh every day, and I've been working with Evolved every day for just over 5 years, and I now find myself in a place where I am passionate about teaching, facilitating, guiding self-healing methods. I think everything that has helped me the most has been self-healing.
Yeah.
And that is what as I want people need to be empowered and I want to give
Yeah.
them the tools. So I think that's a bit of an introduction. I've lived in, I don't know, I love languages, I love knitting, I like traveling, I love swimming, I'm love living on islands, which I've done a lot in my life. Um, and I'm at a bit of a crossroads and starting new things and seeing what comes next. But I think a lot of us are because the world is changing so much.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah. So
Totally.
yeah, there's a little bit.
Wow, that's a thank you so much for that. I feel so many parallels actually with that. Um, similar. My name's Anna Seahawk. I was raised in the Arctic actually. Um, and always had like this desire to be outside when my parents would sit down and we would talk about, okay, like, when you're older, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always said, I don't care as long as I'm outside. I loved the outdoors. And I was that kid that would come into a room and like turn the TV off.
Hmm.
And because I just liked to hear like the other people and connect with the other people. And that was like noise to me. Um, so my background, because of my family, was entrepreneurs. My dad was many things, pharmacist, but then he switched careers to a goldsmith, and so
Mm.
we had our own little goldsmith shop in our house, and I did a lot of stuff with him. And my mom was a florist, but then she came to work in the jewelry store, and they did a bunch of other things too that I was always kind of partially involved in, because I just loved that. I loved the interaction with people. And I was a water baby, so I was into scuba diving as soon as I possibly could, even though I was in Yellowknife. And yeah, I fell in love with the BC West Coast from scuba diving and moved out there as soon as I could. And after I had my son, I really dove into natural medicine a lot more and did my chartered herbalist course, and just have always been reading and interested in the healing arts, really my whole life, and it never stopped. And this last 10 years of travel through Asia and a bit of time spent in Latin America, which we're now returning to. But anyway, this experience through Southeast Asia and just having the time actually to just fall into whatever study you want. And it's interesting that you mentioned theater, because I ended up studying that too. I don't know, there's something about performance and speaking, and yeah, it really shows you a lot. I really learned a lot reading about like being a good orator, and like theater, like the old theater where you're in the amphitheater and how you throw your voice, and just the whole acting thing was really interesting to me. So I did a bit of, I mean, not a lot, but I've read some older books about that, which are just
Mm.
fascinating. But yeah, and then I came into plasma therapy just from this whole craziness. I read The Contagion Myth, and that just blew my socks off. And I actually we moved, and we just thought, okay, that's so ridiculous. The Contagion Myth was so ridiculous to us that we were like, okay, well, let's check out Flat Earth while we're at it. And that's actually how I stumbled upon plasma therapy, was from actually this allegedly Dave. I don't know if you've ever come across any of his stuff, but and then I just started reading again like a mad woman, and everything and anything I could get my hands on with plasma therapy. And it was literally downing the stuff. We like, both my partner and I started our plasma journey with a 3-day fast. And
Yeah.
that was super revealing. And yeah, we started aging it, or saving. And we didn't really use the bathroom after that. We were just catching everything. And yeah, now it's pretty nuts. We use it everywhere and anywhere. We actually do our dishes with our evolved plasma.
Mm.
Um, we have different grades that we use for whatever we're doing, laundry, washing the windows. It's like a fantastic window cleaner. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really can't even say where I haven't used it. We actually even feed for a while. Now our chickens are completely free range, but at the beginning we were actually giving them some of our fresh plasma in the morning, which they loved, with their little chicken food meal that I prepared for them, morning snack. That was like, but yeah. Anyway,
Mm.
so the plasma has been um, sort of trumped everything, and I'm almost 21 months now of daily use, and pretty much a daily enema at least
Mm.
once, like for a good chunk of that, and that's actually one of my favorite. I'm saying so many things that I never thought I would be saying right now. It's just nuts.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, you when you put like these words in this sentence together, this is something that I could not have predicted coming out of my mouth. I say that all the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm doing a course right now on Shivambhu. I lead courses, and last 2 weeks ago on the course, I did a whole. Someone said, "Could you just explain Basti again?" And Basti's like doing mini enemas. It's like it's an
Mm,
implant. And Basti comes from the Ayurvedic term, which is a Basti is usually done with oil, with warm oil to hydrate the colon and the intestine.
right.
And I was in a very, I still am in a community that has a lot to do with Ayurvedic medicine. And so I don't have a background in that, but I have learned through this community and I deeply appreciate it. But
Mhm.
they throw around the word basti and abhyanga for your self-massage oil practice and stuff. So I was got used to the terms. And so when I was talking about putting small amounts of urine, fresh or evolved, into the rectum, into the colon, I was like, implant sounds awful. And it's not an enema. It's because it stays in, it doesn't come back out. An enema is really rinsing, washing. I mean, it also hydrates,
Mm.
right? But it's not the same purpose. And it can be so small. Like a basti can be 5 milliliters, 10, 15, 20. I mean, you can do 60, but like it can be small. So I started using basti, like urine basti, shivambu basti.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna copy that. That's a
Yeah.
really
Right.
that's a really great explanation.
And it takes it back to the Sanskrit, which is where we get so much of this information about Shivambu. So why not, in terms of saying thank you and gratitude to the people who wrote this down 5,000
Mm.
years ago, and saying the continent, like the entire subcontinent and what we now call India, has given us so much wisdom and so many traditions. And the fact that we can read their words so many years later, it's like just so much gratitude. So let's use the words
Mm.
that they have and not
Yeah,
apply other stuff. If we don't, if we have a word, let's use it. So basti to me is a great word. Um,
Basti, I love it. Sounds beautiful
yeah.
even.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so someone said, "Can you explain Basti again?" So I just suddenly dropped in. I grabbed my props from the bathroom and I started going over
Yeah.
different sizes of syringes and like how you can hold it and what you're looking for and what might happen and what might not happen. And it was just, and then that was 2 weeks ago. And this past week, someone said, "Well, what about the snorting up the nose?" So suddenly there I am again with my syringes, like, and I'm just talking about, well, you can snort, you can sniff, you can huff, you can drop her, you can like what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, these are all the things we're doing secretly
Yeah. And yet
in
these
our
are the
in our
daily,
bathrooms.
yeah, and
Yeah.
such easy daily practice. And this is the thing too, like every single person who comes to me and ends up saying, I'm afraid to do an enema, I'm worried about doing Basti, I don't know what's gonna happen. And every single person comes back and goes, that really wasn't a big deal. And
Yeah,
and
hey?
they all go, I like it. Now, maybe they don't do enema every day or they don't do it even every week. Maybe they do it once a month, but they make friends with the practice.
Mhm.
Nobody's come back and said, I'm never doing that again. Nobody, right?
Yeah, after you do your first, plasma Basti, and then you go out around all of the other people, I'm like, "Okay, everybody, we need to just let's line everybody up." Like, it's such an really easy thing for people to do, and probably one of the most single impactful things that pretty much anybody can do.
Yeah. And
So crazy.
so also, have you seen, unfortunately there's only one video I think right now with her, but Darlene Tian. Have you seen
Mm.
the interview with Darlene and Kate Stillman? So,
Oh, I've seen a few of Kate's, but I don't know if I've seen that one.
okay, so quick history, just so this makes sense of why I'm connecting these people. Uh,
Do it.
Kate Stillman has run a community for over 20 years. She's still running one. It was called Yoga Healer in spring of 2021 when I joined. And now she has Club Thrive and WPA, which for some reason I'm blanking on what that means, but Wellness Pro Academy. Those are what they're called. Anyway,
Mm.
I joined in 2021. I started talking about Shivambhu. Kate immediately saw the relevance. She'd heard of it before, but had never met anybody who'd done it as long as I had. And so now I was
Mhm.
a resource. And so she dove in and started saying, who should I talk to? And so I gave her names of like, talk to Brother Sage, talk to Dr. Group, talk to Darlene Tia, and like, here are some people. So those are a lot of the interviews that are on her site, including some with me, because that was how that connection got made. Darlene was a naturopath who was living in New Brunswick. She just moved actually to South America. But she was a Canadian living in the province next to me who I'd met at a Christmas party. And I had talked to her. She was very open-minded, and I was looking for a naturopath that I could talk to and say, I do Shivambhu, so that when they did my panels or did my blood work or did whatever on me, I could have the conversation with them knowing what I was doing.
Yeah, wow, valuable.
Yeah. And so she was like, I've never heard of that, but yeah, let's talk. So she was very, very open-minded. Um, I worked with her. She saw how good my health was. And one of the things that I wanted tested at the time, because I'd been at that point, this was 2019, 2018, 2019. I think it was 2019. I had been, that's right, it must have been 2019. I had been fully vegetarian, mostly drinking Shivambhu, was not paying any attention to how much protein I was getting in my diet. I was just eating instinctively. And I said, I really want to know, what is my protein level according to the like my blood work. And
Mm.
she did whatever tests, whatever. She came back, she said, your protein level is dead center normal.
Wow.
And I went, great, thank you. I thought it was, but I just
Yeah,
like I felt fine, but people around me were looking at what I was eating and going,
you
you're not,
can't.
you can't eat like that. This is not, you're not going to be okay. And I kept going, I think my Shivambu is giving me everything I need. I don't,
Yeah, that's what I think.
I don't think I have a problem here. Anyway, she went, yep, you're good. So all that to say, she got super inspired. She started doing the process and she changed her PhD research to be
Wow.
looking at evolved Shivambu or evolved urine therapy. And
Wow.
when you're talking about the power of Basti, I bring this up because in the interview, Darlene talks about her research. Now, this was 2 years ago, and it's not, there isn't another updated interview. Hopefully I can do one with her and get that out there because I'm not sure where she's at with publishing anything on it.
Mm.
But here's the basics of what she did. She got a small test group together because again, it's a PhD study. It's not a huge thing, right? So I think she started with maybe, I don't know if it was 20 people or 25 people, and not everybody finished it, but the ones who did, I know she had at least 12 who did like the full thing. She got everybody to start aging a tiny bit of urine every day, and once the first stuff was 2 weeks old, that's when they started using it. Not because 2 week old evolved is special, but because that was a minimum time that wasn't so long that she'd have to wait for like 6 months to start the study.
Right.
And it was doable for the average person because she had to work with people who'd never done urine therapy. So she's asking them to age their urine. They've never done
Wow.
anything with their urine. And so it's like and they only had to age enough for like, was it 20 milliliters for each day? So they didn't have to have big jars, and it needed every single day had to be 2 week old aged urine so that it was exactly the same thing every day. And they did 20 milliliters of aged urine in the rectum every day. They didn't drink it, they didn't rub it, they didn't change their diet, they didn't change their exercise. The only other thing she added in was breath work, because that expansion within the body so that they could feel and handle the expansion that was happening. She did a dry blood work, a dry blood analysis, a wet blood analysis. She ran panels. She did all the tests ahead of time. She tested them in
Mm.
between and she tested them at the end. There's lots of different stuff that happened, but the thing I'm pulling out today, the purpose of saying this is that every single person who did this, the inflammation in their liver went down
Wow.
from
That
fasting.
is impactful. How can you say that about anything else? Like, what could you That's remarkable, eh?
And part of the
Man, if she
reason,
ever does another study, I will be a part of it.
right? The only thing is she'd have to do one for people who've been doing urine therapy for a while, right? That's the thing. We have to find a
Yeah.
way that she can study us now that we've already been doing it. Um,
Oh, yeah.
but
It sounds like
she,
a retreat.
yeah, exactly. Um, part of the reason, in case people who are listening are like, but why? The part of the reason is because the vagus nerve connects down into the rectum colon area. And the vagus nerve,
Mm.
as it goes up through the body, also goes by slash touches, interacts with the liver.
Mhm.
And so part of what the she's extrapolating is that the evolved urine is stimulating the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is carrying that information to the liver. It's helping and supporting the liver, and the liver can then begin to detox and reduce inflammation.
Wow.
But we're talking about just over a tablespoon, 20 milliliters,
That's crazy.
right? 15 milliliters is a tablespoon. 20 milliliters is just over a tablespoon. That's the only thing these people changed.
Yeah.
No side
Wow.
effects, right? No negative side effects of doing it in terms of like, you don't, nothing else. I mean, I'm sure some people had their bowels may have behaved differently. Some mucus
Yeah.
may have come out, right? Things like that. But it doesn't, all the other things, like if you're using a pharmaceutical, that's not, that sort of side effects are not happening.
No, the side effects in pharmaceuticals is pages
Yeah,
long to read through.
yeah.
That's one of the really beautiful things about it. Not only is there's really no the only problem actually when people ask me about this, I'm like, the only problem that I know of, and maybe you can confirm this with me or for me, the only problem I'm aware of is actually if you're taking pharmaceuticals because you're taking them again,
Sort of.
essentially. So if you're on an antidepressant, say,
Yeah.
and you take your pill and then you take your plasma, you're looping your
Well, sort of. Like,
medicine.
yes, but no, in the sense of like, are you getting some of it back? Yes, but this is another explanation that I've heard from people like Dr. Edward Group, who has um, done more of what I would call like Western scientific study than I
Mhm.
have. Um, I have a PhD, but as I already said, it's like in the study of belief. So I'm not the person to ask about biochemistry. Um, but I do like research. So he has talked about the fact that when anything that we take, whether it's vitamin C, whether it's food and has vitamin C in it, and our body extracts the vitamin C and it goes through us, the vitamin C that comes out in your urine is not in the same form as when it went into your mouth in an orange at the beginning. Or if you take a
Yeah.
vitamin C tablet, because your body synthesizes everything that you take. And by synthesizes, it's that sense of like, if you go to a lot of the supplements that people buy now, it will say this is more bioavailable. It's easier for your body to synthesize it. It's easier for your body to integrate it, interact with it, take out from it that which is going to be beneficial. When
Mm.
when the vitamin C comes through you on the other end, it has been taken apart and put back together with other compounds. It's no longer a standalone, I don't know if molecule is the right word,
Yeah,
but it's
it's
not,
like it's like you put it through a fermentation process.
yeah,
Like the cabbage, when you start with it, and the sauerkraut, those are 2 different things, same ingredient, but not the same. So
right.
it's kind of like that in a way when you
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the talks that Dr. Group gave, which is on his YouTube channel, it was over a year ago. He talks about how there's like conjugates, and I looked up conjugates, and it's in science, and basically it's this idea of like a bonding, that there's now different. amino acids bond with certain things, proteins bond with certain things. Like it's more complex than just saying they bonded. Like there's other stuff
Mm.
going on. But if you take a pharmaceutical, it goes through your entire system, it gets bonded to other things, it comes out the other
Right.
side. It's no longer, can it still be detected? Yes. But
I
it's,
get you.
but it's not in that form. So
Right.
when people are
It's not
taking,
even the same thing anymore.
no,
Yeah.
um, that doesn't mean that if somebody's taking a drug that they might not want to drink their urine for 2 hours after they take their pharmaceutical, or 6 hours, or
Right.
8 hours, but that's up to them.
Sure.
So, I mean, there was somebody who started working, or not even working with me. She's just a friend of mine. I talked to her. She took a, she took one pill every morning, and so she would drink her urine before she took the pill. Whatever she
Hmm.
wanted to drink, she would drink it before she took the pill. Then she'd take the pill,
Yeah.
and for her, that was also enough Shivambhu for the day. She was happy with that amount.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not that
And
you
when you,
can't work with it.
right. No, and thanks for actually saying, clearing that up because, yeah, I don't want to deter anybody from diving into this
Yeah.
realm,
But
just because of that.
yeah, but like, with awareness, with safety, with conscious,
Yes.
not
Yes.
just, oh, they said it was okay. No, every person is different. Absolutely.
Yeah, and people actually use this as a way to get off of pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely.
So it's like you can, in a way, like titrate yourself off
Yeah. There's so many
somewhat.
stories, right?
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
Facebook
When
group.
I do drink coffee, when I am drinking coffee, I'm like for sure drinking my plasma after, like whilst I'm drinking my coffee, because I can really feel like you can feel the coffee. You can feel what you eat.
Yes.
You really get in tune with your diet
Yes.
when you get into Shivambu. I love it when my plasma tastes good. So I'm like eating so that that other meal that I'm gonna have also tastes good. So it's like it's just totally different. My diet changed so much over these last 2 years. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I was really concerned about protein, but yeah, you've pretty much dissolved that whole issue.
Well,
Um, so plant-based is possible. That's kind of crazy.
well,
And I'm, like, wondering about the omega fatty acids actually in particular. Do those actually come through our plasma?
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, have you checked out the database at the University of Alberta, the human metabolome?
Only the stuff you've shared about that. I haven't gone there myself and
Okay. So,
dove in.
it's a deep dive. It can be fun, but you can type in anything that you can imagine that would be in urine and just give it a whirl, because they have
Wow.
I
The
mean,
list is long.
the list is, so if you just I put in urine recently, because when you go in, and then they're studying the human metabolome, so they have sweat, blood, cerebral spinal fluid, and you can search everything, or you can just click urine, right? So
Mm,
I click urine, and they're up over 5,000 chemicals that are found in urine. And by chemicals, I mean, like, that's not a bad word in this particular.
right.
Vitamin C is a
Yes.
chemical. Like, back to that, like they're classing everything as a metabolite, and a metabolite
Mm,
is a chemical. But they have over 5,000 in urine at the moment that they have found, but then you can click endogenous or exogenous. So like endogenous produced by the body, or exogenous produced from elsewhere, but that means that we get it through something, either breathing or our skin or what we ate or whatever. But there's still things that can be detected in urine.
mhm.
So they're at over 3,100 that are endogenous, that our body is
Wow.
producing itself. And there's this one table that's in an
That's
article that,
crazy.
yeah, that they published in 2013. And in 2013, they had over 3,100 endogenous already. And in there, they have a super classes table. And in the super classes, these are like the big headers. And then underneath each big header, there's all these different elements. So all 3,100 fit into these somewhere. Well, in there, there's amino acids and polypeptides, which are your proteins. There's carbohydrates, which are your sugars. And there's lipids, which are your fats. So, and they're
A
three of the
balanced meal.
largest. Yeah, and they're three of the largest in the categories. Like they have some of the most of those underneath them.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, I'm not totally surprised. I am a little like the numbers are surprising always when we start to talk about plasma.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was vegan for a while, but I went back to being vegetarian, and now you're really making me wonder
So,
about that now.
well, here's part of the question to say, like the more you work with Shivambhu, how much more do you have you found that your own intuitive awareness about what you need has gone up?
Oh, I wouldn't even be able to put a number on that. And actually, that really, where that leads me actually is the emotional balance that it brings and hormones, which is basically hormone balancing. I think our emotions are our hormones. Like if you have it out of whack, if you're not emotionally stable, I think there's probably something in your hormones that will be able
Mhm.
to show you that. And I think I don't know about this, and maybe you'll be able to verify something or share something to shed more light on this. But what I feel is for things like depression, for
Mhm.
example, my mom, when she started cycling her plasma, she says herself, her like depression like went away. It's like someone lifted it up off her shoulders and it went away. And I think this is the body, like this is what I call the drinkable hologram. Like you're
Mm.
taking the information back into your body and your body's producing the hormones that it needs to make that to recover that imbalance that you're showing to itself.
Yes.
Um, yeah, okay.
So,
Because that's what it really feels like to me.
yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where people say, I understand why it's confusing because I started doing it based on my teacher and I didn't know what I was getting into 10 years ago. And a lot of what I know is based on the fact that I've done it for so long.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just learned through doing, and it's experimental and experiential. And really, that's how all of us learn. We learn by experiencing. Otherwise, we don't know. Someone
Yeah.
can tell us something, but we don't know it till we experience it. So I can just say that people will go, but aren't you drinking back the imbalance? It's like, yes, but the imbalance tells your body what needs to be balanced. So then,
Right.
but
It's
then they
like
say,
showing the body where the cut is.
yep. Yeah, exactly. Like you need more of this. But then they're like, but
Yeah.
didn't the body just produce it? Doesn't it know what it produced? It's like, well, it must on some level, but we know from experience that the more we drink our Shivambu, the better we feel, the more whole we feel, the more balanced we feel. All these things line up. So I think it's doing it both knows what it produced, but it also needs the feedback.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and they don't cancel
It
each
makes
other
sense to me. Yeah, yeah.
out.
And I wonder too about like people who have reoccurring um like genital herpes or urinary tract infections or um yeah, anything like that, especially with women. Is
Mhm.
there any instance like that you're aware of, like any condition that you would not do plasma therapy?
I mean, the quick answer is no,
Mhm.
but that's also based
Yeah.
on myself. I can't think of anything that I would get other than maybe radiation poisoning.
And even then, I'm like, well, actually, for that, maybe I would go to a good female friend who ate well, and get some of her plasma to help me
first, right? Yeah.
with
And
that. Yeah.
also that's where I'd rely on my store of Evolved.
Yeah, hey. This is a frigging gold mine for
Yeah.
sure. It's so crazy to move from here and leave. Like, I mean, I have liters and liters and liters of plasma around here.
So here's a question though. There are people who,
But
when they move, they take their entire wine cellar with them.
I know, but we're like going across the ocean, like
They do that.
Asia to Latin America.
I mean, not that you have to do it. And I mean, you can take an epic bath
Yeah,
or
that's a
two.
really good idea, actually, because I haven't done a full plasma bath yet. And
Yeah.
that could be a nice farewell. And maybe I'll set the bath. I do have a friend here who is hooked on plasma, and maybe I'll just set up the bath in her backyard.
Hmm.
And then she can just have the bath when I'm done, do what she
Amazing.
wants with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great idea, actually.
Yeah. I mean, because, yeah, you don't want to get rid of it. But I mean, the other, yeah, I don't know. I'm a friend of mine just went to India for the winter to study and took, I think, maybe 3 liters in checked
Mm,
luggage. And
yeah.
but part of the discussion was I was like, well, people travel with wine all the time,
Yeah, yeah, I traveled with liquid supplements for a while.
right? Yeah.
And, the other thing I've been doing is reducing it, like, on a really low simmer and reducing it to 1/4, which was I
Mm.
read from the Dhamma Tantra. I don't know if you've ever done that, but for the skin topically, it's pretty wild, like,
I want to
I
try it
gotta
now.
say, there's something about that. I know heating it is, like, kind of crazy for some people, but wow.
I mean, your
And
testimony,
then it's also 1/4 the volume.
yes, that too. I mean, based on what you've said and written, I do want to try it now. I haven't yet tried it. Um,
Yeah.
I had read that in the Dhamma Tantra because I read that a few years ago, and I went, well, that's interesting. Uh,
Yeah, I kinda passed it by too initially.
you know, and also because I started with this practice because to a large degree because I had very dry skin my whole life, very sensitive skin, very dry
Mm.
skin. I have very Celtic skin, like DNA wise, this is Celtic skin. And um, people, it's just incredible. It's like almost translucent sometimes. So very, very sensitive. And that was part of what happened was my teacher, this isn't almost anytime anybody's talked to me and recorded it, I almost always end up telling the story. But basically, she just said, if you want to try this practice, because everyone in the yoga teacher training was a little grossed out, going, "What is she talking about?" And she'd been doing urine therapy for 30 years when I met her, so it's now been
Wow.
40 years that she's been doing it.
She must be glowing or
Yeah,
something, like
she really is. Yeah, her name is Shakti Mai. She lives in Tel Aviv. I met her when she was living in Canada, in Vancouver, and she learned about this 40 years ago. And she just,
wow.
I mean, she's also done yoga practice and meditation and chanting and like her,
Sure.
but she credits Shivambhu as well with a massive amount
Yeah.
of who she is and how she comes across and her vitality, her frequency, just she's so vital. She's so
Mhm.
alive and present. Anyway, she said, rub a few drops on the back of one hand every day. When you pee, just catch a few drops on your hand. You don't need to like get a cup or anything. Just get a few drops. Back of one hand every day for 3 days. And then after 3 days, compare your hands.
Yeah.
So if you don't have dry hands, this isn't going to make a big difference. So, like, there is that. I had very dry skin. I did the back of
Yeah.
my left hand every day for 3 days. At the end of the 3 days, the difference between my two hands was so obvious that I started putting it on both my hands every day, multiple times a day, because here I had
Yeah.
free moisturizer that worked better than my moisturizer. And I had moisturizer in every bag, every room, next to my bed, constantly. And I was buying the best organic bio farming, whatever moisturizing stuff
Mm.
I could get my hands on because my skin was so sensitive. I couldn't handle chemicals on my skin. And
Yeah.
suddenly I had something that was better.
It's crazy.
And so then I started putting it on my
From
face.
your own body.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely astonishing,
And it's
really.
partially because like the urea is emollient. And that's a word you hear in every commercial that
Mm.
talks about expensive creams, the emollient nature. Well, that's urea. And that's like the most after water. That's what you have the most of in your urine is urea and uric acid. So that got me going. And I started using it every day as a full body moisturizer. That's was my thinking. I'm like, this is how I moisturize my body.
Mhm.
And my body loved
Yeah.
it. My skin loved it. And I didn't smell weird and nobody noticed and there was no big deal. And suddenly I wasn't carting stuff around with me. So,
Yeah, hey? Except for a cup.
yeah. And so for me, when I read the Dhamma Tantra and it was like, oh, well, you can reduce it. And I was going, but why? In the sense of
Yeah,
when I use fresh or evolved, I did nothing but fresh for 5 years. So
yeah,
my skin was great. I had no
yeah.
complaints. And I think this is where everybody dives into the aspects of Shivambu that are based on what imbalances they have or what they need.
Mm,
And because
yeah,
you even shared like you and your partner went to reducing it because you were looking for something specific that wasn't happening with the fresh.
sure. Yeah, yeah. And especially for my partner, because he really suffers with, well, had with like just um, sensitive skin. And yeah, so for sure. And cold sores, we both get that. And
Mm.
the boiled, like whenever I feel like there's something coming on, um, I don't know. It's amazing.
And so
Amazing
when
for that.
once
And
you boiled
actually,
it, yeah,
mhm,
once you boiled it, how long
I've
did you
I've
keep it?
however long I do like a batch, and then when I'm out, I just
Okay.
do another batch. So
Okay.
however long you can manage to let it last for.
Yeah.
And actually, I've used it like as a salad seasoning because it's got like such a, I don't know, like salty.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like some kind of exotic Japanese spice blend. Like it's
It's very
nuts. I
umami.
can't. Yeah, very, very much so. So, and we even reduced some down to like powder, like a
Mm-hmm.
salt, and pretty tasty.
And your
There's
tolerance.
so many times.
Oh, so go ahead. So many times.
There's so many times where I've just been like, wow, I could fool someone with my plasma, like consomme, like do a whole meal
Mm-hmm.
of all the different plasma forms in as part of the food,
Yeah.
and
Coconut
they would never
water.
know.
We're starting with coconut water. Yeah. Um, how is your tolerance for normal salt?
Yeah, that's reduced. I wasn't really big on salt. Like I'm pretty much I was a salt snob, like Himalayan salt or sea salt or black salt. I still use on occasion, but eating out is really interesting. All of the sauces and dips and the salt, the sodium, and the whatever binding thing. These things, you really feel them in your body.
Yeah.
Like, especially after my 10-day,
Mm,
like I did a 10-day plasma only. And then another time I did 10 days plasma only. And then I extended like to another 26 days. And I did like fresh pressed sugarcane juice or coconut water or a ginger tea or a mint tea. Like I still went out um, and socialized, but
mm.
I was just really careful with what I was drinking. And after that, after you get your body that clean, and then the first time you go to put something like work yourself up to going back to the French fry or the the salad dressing at a restaurant, and then you go and I would like force myself, not force myself, but I would eagerly go. I'm like, okay, I want to know, what does this taste like? What's going on here? And I was just like, wow, you it's no surprise to me that there's so much illness and inflammation and dis-ease in people walking around because
Yeah.
um, I don't know. After all of this, almost 2 years of this, I'm like, it's a wonder people are still standing upright. Like when you look at what goes into our bodies, you just walk through a convenience store shelves and
Yeah.
know that that gets replaced on a regular basis.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest thing, I really thought too, I was on the like Himalayan Celtic sea salt, whatever thing. And the Shivambu really got it. Like I just became so much more sensitive to it. But then I forget why. There's so many different people I've listened to and talked to, but the
Mm,
difference between sodium and sodium chloride,
mm.
and that we need sodium, but sodium on its own is the salt, and our body produces that and it's in our Shivambu. Sodium chloride is a rock
Mm.
and it creates sediment, and our body, it's an
Oh,
inorganic
wow.
mineral. It's inorganic.
Mm.
Sodium is organic,
Right.
and not organic like
Mm.
we're talking organic chemistry. Like we're not talking about like organic like it grew out of the ground. We're
No,
talking
I
about,
get you. I get
right?
you.
For anyone who's listening, going, "What's she talking about?" Um, but that there's a big difference between the two. And anytime we have sodium chloride, that's table salt, that's Himalayan salt, that's black salt, that those are all sodium chloride. They're in rock form.
Wow. Right. It's funny, I gravitate to the sea salt for some reason.
Yeah. I
Actually,
mean,
the sea salt tastes less salty to start with.
I mean that's also in rock form. Like if it's in those little things, then it's still
Oh, wow.
sea salt is still sodium chloride.
Wow, okay.
But it
Mm.
so then it's like it's just noticing, as you said, it's like
Yes.
it's noticing. What does this
Yeah.
do? And what does my Shivambu taste like when if I go out and eat somewhere else and I know they're using oils or salt or whatever that I
Yeah.
wouldn't use, how does my urine taste? How much work did my body have to do to produce that Shivambu?
Yeah. I wonder about the fermentation process then when you're doing lacto fermenting and you're using salt. Is it
I can't handle
the
it
same?
anymore.
Wow. Interesting.
But even then, it's like this is part
But
of
what about okay, oh, well, that's sugar. That's
Mhm.
totally different. Like the vinegar ferments, because that's actually what I do most of now is vinegar ferments
Mhm.
for like a enzyme tonic, which I've been
Mhm.
doing for so long. And I actually really love how that tastes. I don't think well, whatever.
Mm.
Someone might convince me by some bad information or something like that. But I do a lot of long vinegar ferments. So I'm using sugar to get the
Mm.
process started in that.
I don't know. I mean, this is again, I think from my experience, we all just hit different places at different times.
Yeah,
And we
it's
find
true.
people who are at another stage of the journey and they've learned something
Mm,
and it resonates or it doesn't. There's a woman in Florida who has an account called Halt Salt Health.
mhm.
And she also talks a lot about vinegar as being, she can't handle it anymore. And that,
Oh, the ferments in general. But there's a lot of vinegars that anyway, I'll have to check that out and see what she has to say.
just again, for me, it's just interesting, like reading what different people have said. But about halfway through my journey of this, like in the first 5 years of doing the fresh, I would hit points where I craved fermented food, whether it was kimchi
Yeah.
or sauerkraut, and I would eat it until I didn't crave it. And I've tried to eat it in the last couple years, but every time I do, my gut actually gets gassy now because I think my
Hmm.
gut has
Interesting.
gone to the other side.
Right. I was just gonna say, this is really, and you really hit on it. It's really a journey, and it's a journey for the body too. And these people that are solely Shivambhu, like, which is what I consider breatharian. If you're a
Yeah.
breatharian, like a true breatharian is someone who recycles their plasma.
Mm,
To get yourself to that stage, like, it's not just an overnight trip
mm-mm.
where you just decide you're not eating anymore. It's
No.
really like a process, and all of the things along the way serve a purpose in their time,
Yeah.
and are an important part of the process to get you there, and just to to like really just get in tune with what feels right for you.
Yeah.
I think is the most important thing, and go in with the awareness. Like, I still eat salt
Yeah.
on things. I'm just a lot more aware of, like, the impact that that has on my body, and I'm a lot more careful about how I use it,
Yeah.
as opposed to, like, in the past, but
Yeah. And I'm not completely off salt,
everything like that.
like
Yeah.
I'd love to be, but it hasn't at the moment, like where I live, who I live with, what I do on a daily basis, it hasn't been something I can do it for short periods, but I have not yet been able to do
Mhm.
it for a consistently. And I think I'll get there,
Yeah, it's all like that,
you
like,
know.
yeah. I I share with people too about my diet, and I'm like, "Yeah, I try to avoid this and I try to avoid that," but it's nothing like, I don't have a it's like a no rules diet.
Yeah.
If I want to have it if I want to have it and I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna enjoy it, then I do that, but I do it with an awareness of what I'm putting into my body at
Yes.
the same time.
Yeah. Oh,
But
completely.
at the same time, enjoying it is, like, the most important part. I see people now on the internet, like, eating sticks of butter, and I'm
Oh,
just like, "Yeah, but does it taste good?"
yeah.
Like, are you actually I
Mm,
know food is, like, such a pleasure thing for me, and if I love cooking and preparing meals for my friends, and I love making them, healthy and extremely delicious, where you're just peeling yourself away from the table when you're done, and, yeah, I just don't understand some of these trends, like, bizarre to me.
yeah. No, it's everything everything can change when we start on this journey with plasma with Shivambu. It can.
Oh gosh.
And also,
Yeah.
there are millions of people in China who do Shivambu, or I mean, they wouldn't call it Shivambu, they have another name for it, and they eat meat. And there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, hey?
There's nothing wrong with that. And so
Yeah.
this is also part of the like when you just said like there's no rules diet, in that sense too, it's like it's your medicine, it's your plasma.
Yes. Yeah.
You do as little or as much with it as you want. If it is only in your medicine cabinet for burns and crisis management, fantastic,
Wonderful. Yeah, I
right?
agree.
And if it's something that you're almost to the breatharian stage with it, fantastic. But
Yeah.
there's no hierarchy of like you can only use it this
No.
way.
Yeah. That's really the beautiful thing about it, and it's been really wild to be, like, I'm really grateful that my partner and I are both, like, we really encourage each other in our journeys, and, with the Shivambu, and so it's really been no rules around here, like mopping the floor, like, literally everything. And actually what really got me onto that was, Lant. When I started to read about that's what they called evolved plasma or evolved Shivambu or aged plasma or Shivambu Lant, and they would use that for their laundry washing and cleaning, all of
Where?
this stuff, and I was just you can actually, in Europe,
Oh,
mostly,
okay.
like, I'm I think that word is British, Lant.
Okay.
I think the
'Cause, yeah, I
origin of
know
it.
in Germany up until the 1950s, they were still collecting urine, and the big hotels were washing all their linens in collected urine.
I am not surprised. And then I found an article that talks that spoke about I should share that into the little chat.
Mm,
Um, that talks about the Portageon and the enzyme company in America that
mhm.
keyed into that, got that sorted out. And so much of the products, I think, and the pharmaceuticals that use this that people buy are like from a porta-john, from some guy, in at a festival in America that's peeing into a porta-john, and it's, they have it sorted out to filter out the
Yeah,
things they need, because obviously a men's toilet is a lot easier to do this process than a woman's
yeah,
outhouse. So
yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah.
And
No, I mean
horse urine and pig urine, you hear a lot about that, but
cow urine,
yeah,
cow
yeah, cow
urine.
urine, huge, popular, you could say, in, India,
Yeah,
like the,
even camel urine, like a lot of um horse,
goat,
cow, like anything in
yeah,
that vein of mammal.
all the grass eaters,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
the
of course,
vegetarians,
yeah, all the
or the
vegetarians.
vegans, I should say.
So, and what's in there?
Yeah,
There's
all
so much
these
more
huge
chlorophyll.
animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Well, and then okay, back to this point about being vegan or okay, why are we told that we need to eat meat? It's for the protein. It's for the animal protein, right? But when we drink our own urine, are we not drinking animal protein?
I know, right? And
It's
you
our
see the size of
animal.
a horse.
Well, yeah, but, I mean
It's
that's their animal protein, but I mean our
and an
own.
elephant. An
Yeah,
elephant isn't eating meat. And look at the size of that.
yeah,
It's just crazy.
yeah, yeah.
But I think it's like addiction, actually. I think our bodies have gotten addicted, actually, to the meat. And when you go off these things and you go like, when you go from a diet like that, and if you went like hardcore, just overnight, okay, I'm going to do plasma and vegan, I really do think you would feel sick
Oh
and
yeah,
nauseous, and the body adjusting to that would
yeah.
just be like unhappy for,
Oh no, it's
I don't
not.
know,
That
it's
would
a
that would be a big
transition.
yes. The transition
You've got to
is
make it a
real.
transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and again, it's like what are you aiming for? What are you doing? And I mean, I think people again, I've worked with well over 200 people now in their like more specifically, like not just a comment in a thread where I don't know who gets to read it, but like people where I've really
Right.
gotten to talk to them about
Mhm.
what's happening as they start their journey. And people at the moment, especially people who've been doing any sort of spiritual work, they've worked on their diet in some way. They understand
Mm.
what their body likes and what it doesn't and how to tell. When they
Yeah.
start using Shivambu, they can go so fast. And
Yeah, hey,
when
I
I
have a friend who was, like, surprised at how good it tasted when she finally went for it, because 'cause
right,
she's got a clean diet
yeah.
already.
And when I started 10 years ago, I mean, it actually wasn't that bad because like I got going and I was quite into it, but I was still eating meat at that point in my life. And it was I wasn't buying it and cooking it, but if I went out and somebody served it to me, I ate it. Like I wasn't saying no, I wasn't saying I'm a vegetarian. 5
Mm.
years into doing this, my body stopped it. It just said, "You're not eating meat anymore." Like overnight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because when I look back now, I really feel like the fresh Shivambu was it was washing me. It was washing out old sediment. It was washing out old
Mm.
pharmaceuticals. It was cleaning my cells. It was
Oh,
shifting
yeah.
everything over time. Because once I
Yeah.
started, I never stopped. I didn't mean to. I didn't have a rule. I wasn't like I must engage with my plasma every day. But I did. I just did.
Yeah,
It
hey?
never
I
it
don't force myself to do any of this either. It's like I'm just this
yeah.
the body just wants it, and also, I mean, I know enough now about what's going on, like, so there's that influence of the knowledge too, obviously.
Yeah, but I was at somebody's
Um,
house at one point and they had said, "Oh, like somebody had said that that soup is squash or something and I tried a spoonful and then someone else came and went, "Oh no, I put chicken stock in that. It's not vegetarian." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I had a teaspoon of soup." It's
It's
not,
okay.
it's okay. Yeah. But it's the overarching thing with the body. This is going back to like what happens with Shivambu in our own intuitive knowing.
Mhm.
And it just
This
it
is my favorite.
because the more we put ourself, our urine is us, as you said, it's this holographic imprint of our frequency, of where we're at, of everything,
Mm,
emotions, thoughts, spiritual state, physical state, everything we've eaten, everything we've done that day. And it's
yeah.
also the blueprint that we came into the world with. Like our DNA is
Mm.
embedded in it, our stem cells are embedded in it. And so
Yeah, stem cells.
when we put that back in our body, there's more of us in us.
Yeah. You're more whole.
You're more whole. Your aura is bigger. Your field is bigger. You are expanding within yourself, which
Yes.
is also why
And
we
you feel that come out. My dexterity is better. When something falls off the counter, I can like grab it before it hits the ground again. And I'm just like, wow, this is wild.
you get faster. The feedback loop, you start connecting faster. You feel like you're more intelligent. You feel like you make
Oh,
connections easier. All of these things.
yeah. It's like it's almost like refreshing the battery
Hmm.
because it's got a charge to it, right? Like there's an ionic charge to your plasma. And so when you take that back in, it's like charging your battery on your phone again, or not even that. It's like putting fresh juice into the battery that you're charging. Um,
And
so
you,
there's more power there.
yes. And like
There's more
literally,
capacity.
yeah, when you're talking about that, if people are like, what do they mean? Like there's a negative ionic charge to evolved Shivambu. We know that, we can measure that. The fresh, it depends on the person. Some
Mm,
people's fresh may not have a huge charge depending on where they're at if they haven't been doing this for very long. But a lot of people who've done it for a long time have done ORP meter testing to see what the negative charge is, and there is a negative charge to the fresh. It just does depend on the person. Whereas once it's aged, it basically
yes.
has one.
Yeah.
And that a negative ionic charge gives electricity back to the body. So it's very simply putting electricity back in the body, and we are electrical
Yeah.
beings. So that's what, if someone's
Yeah.
listening, like,
And that's why when you go into the ocean, because that also has a charge, it's like you're charging your electrolytes. It's like you're getting that into your system through your skin.
yeah,
It's going
forest
into the
bathing,
ocean.
grounding, feet on the earth, swimming in water, walking on the edge of the ocean, like these are all negative charged areas. They take the positive charge off of us that we get from sitting inside all day, being at computers, being,
Yeah, like static electricity, like,
yes,
the body always wants to be in homeostasis,
yeah,
right? Like, so it's always and it knows where that is
yeah,
just by itself.
yeah.
And so, yeah, that's why I think the hormone balancing is like
Mhm.
the plasma cycling, the Shivambu cycling is like key. I don't even for women out there and the whole transition, like I mean, never mind just the transition part, like all the way along, anyone, but women in particular, menopause. I think this is such a huge missing link for so many people that can just assist them in a more smooth uh, transition. Your whole body goes through a complete like makeover during that time of our lives. And I can't even imagine not having Shivambu to carry me through that.
So this was part of my teacher's testimony that got me willing to try it. Because when I met her, she was 52. And when she'd been living in Vancouver, a lot of her, this is how she tells it, a lot of her female friends had said, you have to go to this clinic. It's a women's clinic. And they do testing for women who are perimenopausal, menopausal, whatever. Like they check your levels and things. So she went and paid for an expensive test. And they came to the other side, and the doctor said, we'd like to run this again. Something went wrong. And she went, okay. So they ran it again and they got the same results. And the doctor said, okay,
Wow.
what are you not telling us? And so my teacher
What's your
said,
secret?
in her very straightforward way, she went, do you have an open mind? Right. And the doctor went, yes. And she said, okay, I've been drinking my urine for 30 years. And this doctor, to her credit, made the connection and said, oh, you've been doing hormone replacement therapy on yourself. Now your results make sense. Because they were looking for like a midline, and people who are at that stage in life are supposed to either be deficient here, have too much of that over there. But my teacher's levels were defying everything that they were looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that should be like front page news, women's health. That little story right there.
Yeah. And I was
And
like,
I think
wow.
this is such a beautiful time to really come out. There's so much support now.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how many people are really keying into this. And not just that, but it feels like I feel like it's my duty now that
Mm-hmm.
I've had this experience. I'm like, okay. I went to a women's circle here the other few nights ago, and I was like biting my tongue off to not talk about plasma.
Yep.
And then after it was over, I said to my friend, I'm like, "Okay, that's it. That's the last time I'm going to be able to do that. Sit in a room of women like that and not just say at least like that I'm doing this and it changed my life.
Yeah.
Like just that's it."
Yep.
And, yeah, we really need to support each other, and because I can understand how there was a lot of apprehension before, because the trolling on this is still rampant and really weird, but, there's a really strong group of us,
Yeah.
ever expanding, and so many people we don't know about, as you say, like in, China, where they actually have meetups. And, yeah, I wanna start doing stuff like that, just in person and online,
Yeah. It,
as like a regular schedule thing.
yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen too is that like the more I've talked about it, just authentically, like this is my experience, this is what has happened.
Yeah,
There, people who don't want to do it just don't want to do it. And that's fine.
yeah,
No problem.
but
And
you've planted a seed, and you never know, people
yep,
might do it and never tell you.
yeah. And then, but the people who are ready to even just contemplate it,
Yeah,
it's like great.
yes,
And so the number of open-minded people is actually who you wouldn't expect. They're doing ordinary jobs. They're doing ordinary. I mean, I just mean like they're doing from the outside you would never think that they're into alternative stuff.
right,
But they're so they are and they're ready. And so
yeah,
it's not always where you think you're going to find the people. So part of this too is trusting the intuition when you're in the right moment and your intuition's going, tell this person.
yeah,
And you tell them and they're like, oh, that's interesting. And you don't feel judgment from them and you don't feel like you just shocked them in a way that
yeah,
they're
it's
ready for.
really more like just getting comfortable with it myself, like, to
Yeah.
actually just, like, say it and,
Yeah.
sit in that knowledge
Yeah.
with, your own self-assurance. And yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. And there's ways to do it, right? There's ways to introduce it that are gentle and
Yes.
and also like, we all find our way into it, but there's also like it depends on the person and even just the fact that it's well known, it's in every medical textbook, you know,
Oh gosh.
babies pee into the womb.
Yeah.
Every single human on the
We're
planet,
born swimming around in this stuff.
it's not new to our body. Our body has done this.
Mhm.
Our conditioned
Yeah.
mind is what goes, this is new, but the body's like, no, it isn't. It really isn't. I've done this
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. This is a really powerful mind unconditioner.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you wanna detox your brain and, how you say the vagus nerve, and I mean,
Yeah.
the pineal gland must all be affected by especially the evolved That's
Yeah.
such a when I saw it take the scale off of my windows that have had the hard water on it from watering this one side of the house and
Mm.
all this buildup on the windows, and then I take the plasma on there and just, like, wipe it off. Like, "'Kay, what's going on inside the body with all of this stuff?" It's, like, amazing
So
scrubber.
one of the a lot of the people who end up doing plasma therapy, they end up on distilled water
Yeah, I
because
wanna get onto that.
I resisted because I'm like, I don't need to do another thing. I don't need to be weird in another way.
I
Like,
know, right?
I've been filtering my own water for a decade. I have a little tiny gravity filter that takes out like 99.9% of whatever could possibly be in the
Sure.
water. And I love it, and it's been fabulous, and I can travel. It's little, I can travel with it, the whole thing. But then I did a 10-day plasma and distilled water fast last year in December, and it ruined me because I couldn't, after doing that, I tried to drink even my filtered water, and I went,
Oh
"Oh
my
no.
gosh.
Oh no." Yeah.
Oh boy, I can feel this one coming.
Yeah. And
I can't even find distilled water here. I mean, I guess I could make my own, but
well, that's the thing. You end up being like, okay, I'm gonna get a distiller eventually. But at the moment, I'm also kind of between countries. And so I'm not sure where I want to invest the money so that I can plug the thing in the wall.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
gonna wait
I hear
until I
you.
know which
I
country
hear
I'm
you.
gonna be. But in any case, your urine is distilled is different in the sense if it's not distilled and like it went up into a cloud and then it the precipitate changed and then it comes back down.
Mm,
But what your kidneys do to the
yeah,
like your blood goes through the kidneys take out the extra water, and that process is so extremely purifying. And it puts it also into
yeah.
that structured water state, which is what we're talking about, which is more available to the body to hydrate. So it is like, it's almost like souped up distilled water. Distilled water is
Oh my god.
H2O, right?
I can't wait to try this.
But distilled like, urine is as hydrating as distilled water, and it's structured, and it has up to 3,000 things in it, and it's got stem cells, and it's like, so of course it's better than the distilled water. I'm not saying distilled water is better than it's not. It's just that if you're gonna drink, I do drink
Yeah, if you're
water.
thirsty for a glass of water, then have
Yeah.
distilled water. Yeah.
But I also am at the it blew my mind when this happened to me that I got to the point where I, I'll drink a glass of water and then I'll drink a glass of fresh urine. I'm like, the urine is more hydrating. I feel more hydrated from that than I
Yeah.
do from the water.
Sure. I feel so nourished sometimes from my plasma, especially when I was doing uh no water, no tea, no nothing, like just doing the fresh pressed juices like
Mm,
the sugarcane or the coconut water
mhm,
and your plasma then I was like, wow, my body is being fed on like a whole new level. And our grocery bill has
mm,
been reduced by like I mean, we used to say 30%, but I bet it's even more than that now because we're consuming more of our plasma and we're doing more
mm.
of the bestie. Is that am I saying that right?
Basti, Basti.
Bestie.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're doing more of the bestie.
yeah.
And yeah, we're just in it, like when I get a bucket of water to do some washing around the house, I like glug in a few good chunks of aged plasma, and that's what I'm washing with, so my hands are in it. We do all our laundry by hand here. We're in, like, the forest, basically. So we're always in contact with it. Um, yeah, I'm just wondering how much is gonna change when I move to a place that has, like, a washing machine and,
Well, you can still put it in the washing
um
machine.
yeah, oh, yeah, for sure, but I just the contact is gonna be
Yes,
different.
might be a little different. Um,
But one
something
of the things I really wanted to experiment with, that I'm looking forward to doing in the very near future here is dark therapy, where you go and do I don't know if you've looked at
I've heard of it.
people are doing this. So I want to try that with plasma cycling.
Hmm.
Doing the plasma cycling.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
report
I want
back
to
on that
see.
one.
The woods, so I'm gonna try and do that there. I interrupted you a bit there. What do you remember what you wanted to share?
No, I think my internet was unstable. Might still be unstable.
You froze for a minute. Oh, you're still frozen.
Has it come back yet? I can see
Yeah,
it.
now you're back.
Oh, let's see
You're
here.
back.
Okay.
You're back for me anyway.
All right. Good. Um, oh, I mean, there's just every couple sentences, there's other things that I'm thinking of that are part of this, um, and the way that we work and the way that we engage with it. I think one of the things I'm just thinking about, like the different, I've done a bunch of interviews now and or discussions with people, and I love having this kind of discussion where it's two practitioners
Mm,
talking, instead of it's interesting being interviewed by someone who's never done it too. That's a different thing, but I love
mm,
like two practitioners talking discussion. Um, but one of the things that I will say is that with the people who are now who've done this for a bit longer and have like, done a course with me or done things, we have like groups of people who have been doing this for like 2 years, for example. Most people it's about 2 years because that's when I really started talking about it. So that's when I started gathering more people who knew what I was doing. And
yeah,
we have monthly meeting, like a group community chat that we do. And what we see is it's like having somebody to talk to about this, because
it's important.
when you first start doing it and you're closer to that beginning than I am, and as you said, it just breaks up, it deconditions your mind. You have to get out of being socially conditioned in order to do this. You have to question that conditioning to get there.
Yeah,
And once you do, you
yeah,
start forgetting what it felt like to be disgusted by it.
right.
And then it's
This is
hard.
really why at the beginning we changed the name. We just didn't even use we actually
Yeah.
don't use the word urine. We
Yeah.
use plasma, golden plasma, Shivambhu, but we don't actually even use that. It's like that's
Yeah.
like a dirty word in our house.
Well, yeah, because society has
Because it's
made
got
it.
so much conditioning.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So I totally agree. I tend to say Shivambu, but that's what I teach with
Yeah.
most of the time. Um, and also you can say it in a like, or plasma, you can say it in a coffee shop and nobody cares, right? So there's no
Right.
weirdness to have a discussion. But
Yeah.
being in community, or at least having someone that you can talk to about it, changes everything, because you feel so weird, you feel so out there, and your body starts doing things.
Yes.
You have these experiences and you need to have a way to integrate that with other
Yes.
people. And so for
Yes.
people who are starting, like, reach out for support, like whether you're going to
Yes.
be on a Telegram group or a Facebook group, or you want to find another way to do it. But that's one of the things that I'm really a proponent of, and that I do myself with people who've done
Yeah.
courses with me, is I hold that community space.
Yes. We actually have also a private chat like on a completely different channel. It's actually called Matrix, if you look up
Mm,
matrix.org.
okay.
And that platform I love because it actually is your data.
Mm,
And you can render it, a lot of programmers actually use it. Like it's really for safely sharing your information, and you can host your own, you can actually host your own, I don't know the technical words for all of this now,
mm,
but you can run your own matrix like server.
mm,
So it's completely open source. It's
mhm,
not like Telegram or any of these other things.
mm,
And yeah, we have a space there for, just for Shivambu. But it's
mm,
so what you're saying is so key. I think in order, if you're serious about doing it and you're serious about like really giving it a real try, you need to have community
Yeah.
around you. Otherwise, you're just going to feel like a lonely. It won't. Really hard for it to last. And when people start doing it at that very initial stage, like some people have an experience like right away. Like the
Yeah.
first time they drink it, they feel this empowerment. Actually, is one of the things that comes up a lot with the people I've shared it with, especially in women. They're like, and suddenly they feel like this extra power that they have in their body. And then they'll go to share it with someone. And then they're like, the person that they share it with is like totally like, runs the old program back to them. And then they start to lose like their enthusiasm starts to get affected. And,
Yeah.
it's a quick fall off the ladder
Yeah.
when they've barely even got up
Yeah.
onto onto it. When people say, "Oh yeah, I tried it for 2 weeks," I'm like, this isn't something you try.
No, no, exactly. And then
This is like the long game. This isn't about trying.
no, exactly.
Yeah.
And I just realized too, like I've been using Shivambu the whole time and I didn't explain it. And um the word in the Damar Tantra, which is the oldest document that we have, unless there's one that's in Chinese that is also 5,000 years old or equal to that, but I don't know
Yeah,
of one.
I heard something about hieroglyphic, actually
Okay.
Egyptian
Okay.
text, but
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So in any case,
Old.
the Damar Tantra, we think it's about 5,000 years old. It is the thing that gets quoted the most because it's available. And in there,
Yes.
they call urine Shivambu. And it's a combination of Shiva, which is Lord Shiva, one of the main three gods in Hinduism, and other traditions also revere Shiva. And then there's also Ambu, and Ambu is the word for water or waters of the body in Sanskrit in this case. And this predates Ayurvedic medicine. This is the mother of Ayurvedic medicine.
Thank you.
When they start
Yes.
noticing what happens when we study this thing and how does it interact with every, so this is the beginning of the study of medicine
Yeah.
in that case. And so when you put Shiva and Ambu together, you get water of Shiva. Well, that's water of God, holy water, divine water, but also Shiva is the god of
Yeah.
awareness. So you get water of
Right.
awareness.
Mhm.
Why do we feel
Nice.
empowered and feel like more of ourselves? It's water of awareness.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Shiva is also the god of destruction.
Mhm.
What does urine do? It pulls out anything that is not natural to the body.
Oh, yeah, be ready for a detox experience.
It
That's the other
destroys,
thing I warn people about.
yeah, it destroys that which is not
Normal.
natural.
Yeah.
But this
My
is,
first 3 days that I
mhm,
did this like that, because I went straight fast,
yep.
and, I had some really intense wrist pain. I've had double radial shortening, if you
Mm,
can imagine that. Kienbock's disease, where I've torn the blood vessels off the lunate bone in both of my wrists.
mm,
And, at the time from doing really heavy laborious, work. And at the time, I went to see the doctor and I was diagnosed with that. And they're like, okay, radial shortening, and we'll make more space in your wrists. And you won't have so much pain. I actually went for that. And anyway, I didn't know about Shivambu back then, but I've been really struggling with wrist pain, you know, my whole adult life, like to the point where I'm like, okay, can I go and take my garden trowel and dig a hole in the garden?
mm,
Like really intense. And when I did this 3-day fast, that like disappeared in the 3 days.
mm,
I didn't even want to say anything about it because I was like, is this for real? Or is this just like temporary? And I mean, yes, it's temporary in a sense. If you go and overwork yourself, you're going to feel the impact of the work that you do. But wow. But the other thing that happened is I went through a huge detox. Like I was sick, and it would appear like I had the flu. But and this old conditioning, like what you're saying, this old conditioning came back is, oh, it's because you're drinking this and it's making you sick. You're sick from it. And then I was just like, oh my God, it's such a mind there's so much conditioning behind this that I had to like, I'm like, no, this is making me better. This
Yeah.
is making me better and stronger. And this, like, you really have to. I think so many people get a reaction, a detox reaction like that, and they're like, oh my God, it's making me sick.
Yeah.
Like it's causing something, and it's causing something, but it's not what you maybe like.
Yeah.
It's not what you think it is. It's really like cleaning.
Yeah. It's the
Cleaning
homeopathic
up.
response. It's like you put in something,
Yes.
it shows you it's working because it's pulling that
Yes.
thing out. And
Yes.
I had the first time I drank all my urine, and I started working with the Shivambhu on my skin in February of 2013. It took me 6 months to be able to drink it. I tried, but I just couldn't do it for about 6 months. And then when I
Mm.
started drinking it, I did about 3 days of most, like, basically looping it while eating fresh fruit, maybe a few vegetables, but like that was it. Plus, I went into a deep detox and then I didn't feel like eating. So I kept having some fresh
Mm.
juice that I was making myself. Like, I was luckily staying in a place where I could pick an orange off the tree and then squeeze it. Like,
Mm.
it was that kind of juice.
Yeah.
And I had every symptom of every cold I've ever had for about 5 days. But there was this clarity in the center of me
Yeah.
that went, you are fine. You are fine. Everything's okay. And at the same time, I was using some of the spiritual tools that I'd learned to connect with what was coming out of me. What was the fear that was coming out of me? And
This is
working with the
powerful.
fear at the same time, right? Because you're saying exactly that thing. They drink the urine and then they get afraid. This is making me sick. That's fear.
Yes.
And so,
We've been programmed for fear.
yeah,
We're like,
yeah.
just
And
turn the news on.
being sick is fearful. If I'm sick, something can go wrong. I can die. What happens if I die?
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
able to work with both, like the plasma. I knew because my teacher had said this will happen, you'll have a detox. So I was prepared,
Mm.
but to sit in it and go, I'm absolutely okay. Everything is aligned, everything is fine. And after 3 days, I stopped looping. I still drinking it, but I stopped looping it. And I happened to be in the same town as my teacher. And so I actually said to her, this is what I did. And she went, well done. Now back it off.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what I say to people too.
let your
I'm
body
like, just ease
integrate it.
off.
Integrate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that never happened
Take what
again.
you can. And then if you
Yeah.
feel a big detox experience coming and you don't want and you want like you don't have time to take off and lie in your bed and like
Yeah.
then just back off. But
Yeah.
if you want to push yourself to detox more, the possibility is there for you. You just take more.
Yeah. And for me, that never happened again. That doesn't mean it can't happen for someone else, that
Yeah, I've
becomes,
never had it that my first 3 days like that, and then I started backing off. I never had a thing like that again, even, like, when I did my longer 10-day ones. But it's like you're always detoxing,
yeah.
and I actually was vegetarian before I started, um, just by chance, uh, but yeah, anyway, we could go on and on and on.
Yeah. Yes. There's so many more stories and there's other people's things too. I mean, just I know this is this line of like, don't be afraid of it. It's your medicine. And I always
Yes,
say go slowly,
yes,
because if you start, when I say slowly, that could be one drop under your tongue, like a homeopathic pill,
yeah,
and do one
or a
drop
bestie, just a
but yeah, Bill Basti. Now,
little bestie.
the Basti could do one of two things though. You could get a whole bunch of like mucus coming out,
Mm.
which again is, could be like that's an experience. Or it might just feel like there's a, like really easy. But this is the thing where it's like, just go slowly and observe. Go
Yeah,
slowly and observe.
my first enema was like a and I've never really had um I've tried to do mushrooms on several occasions, and I've never really had an experience.
Mhm.
But my, first ever plasma bestie was like a LSD trip. Like when I hear people talk about their LSD trips or their psychedelic trips, I'm like, wow, this was like some kind of liberation, like a euphoric, joyous, happy,
Wow. Beautiful.
I don't know. It was so amazing. And yeah, I just having all of this stuff liberated from your body.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like this old luggage that I'd been dragging around my whole life, probably some of it was like um, gone. And I'd done other fasts before and done like the saline
Yep.
where you drink
Clutches. Yeah.
actual yeah, I did that before, and like long ones, like one of my longest ones was over 30 days, and it's astonishing to me that you can still have something come out your bum after not eating for that long, but, yeah, the plasma basti really was like a magical moment for me, and I was, like, hooked forever. I'm
Wonderful.
like, "Wow, how did I get this age that I'm at? And I've never had this, like, never had an enema,
Yeah.
never mind plasma," but
Yeah.
yeah,
And for people who do
so
a lot of
powerful. The
enemas,
besties are so powerful.
yeah. And
When you're sick,
oh,
sometimes when I'm not feeling well, I'm just off, and I'm just maybe something I ate was off or something, and I'm just like, "Okay, get up and go have a bestie. Just do
yep.
it."
Yep.
And I always feel better afterwards.
Yep. And for people who have the aversion to drinking is strong, and there's nothing wrong with that. Doing the
Mm,
busty is a way to drink it because it goes straight into your
yeah,
bloodstream and it's hydrating you. So I know one of the people who's worked with me couldn't bring herself to drink it, but she could do busty every day.
sure.
And she reversed autoimmune disorders.
I don't doubt it. The up the bum is so powerful.
It took 9 months because these are
Well,
intense issues in the body.
yeah, it takes time to heal.
Yeah,
Like, it takes time for the body to rebuild. You're basically rebuilding yourself.
yeah.
And
She
when you
felt,
do Shivambhu, it's like rebuilding yourself with, like at an
yeah,
accelerated level, really, because 'cause you're detoxing at the same time as your body's rebuilding itself.
yeah, yeah. But even then, it's like she felt a difference on the first day. And within
Mhm.
4 weeks, her ability to move, do exercise, participate in
Mm.
society had changed, in 4 weeks, where she had been struggling for a few years. And
Yeah.
she went, "What is going on?" Right? And
Yeah.
that was fresh. That was only fresh Shivambu. Again, like 20 milliliters a day in a little
Wow.
blasti, and her life started to change.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
So
It's
yeah, I'm
crazy.
just, yeah, the things, again, this is part of why we're talking about this, why you and I are sitting here talking about this, because you can't keep your mouth shut after a while. This is free, it's
Mm.
available to you, it's your own medicine. How
Yeah.
can we not tell you it exists? You don't ever have to touch it, but we have to tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the other funny thing that we found out, of course, we both happen to be Canadian, but Canada is a massive country, and you're not living in Canada at the moment. And it turns out that
Yeah.
someone who you were roommates with once a long time ago now
Yeah.
lives on the island I live on, and we go to women's
So crazy.
together.
So crazy.
Yeah.
If you're watching, you know who you are.
Yeah.
So crazy. I know when she told me that she met you, I was like, this world is a lot smaller than we think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is one of those
We're
women
a lot
circles.
closer knit. We're a lot closer
Yeah.
knit. Women are really, really a lot closer knit than we realize.
Yeah. And that's one of those women's circles where I started telling them back in 2015 that I did this.
Mm.
And so they slowly over time have been like, "Oh yeah, that's that thing that Megan does."
Yeah.
You know, total acceptance. No,
Yeah.
that's just,
One of the really powerful things that happened to me so I've been 4 years where, I haven't left Luang Prabang since the great lockdown. I
yeah,
never went anywhere, and just recently I did a trip, my first trip, um, from here, 4 years I haven't traveled more than 25 kilometers from my bed, and I used to move around a lot. So anyway, I went back to Georgetown, and some of the people that saw me who hadn't seen me in 4 years were like, okay, I was always promoting something healthy, like moringa oil, moringa powder. I did kefir at the time and was doing kefir milk,
Yeah.
cheese, and all of this stuff. And they were like, what are you doing now? Because how is it you look younger and I
Yeah.
haven't seen you in 4 years?
Yeah. Yep. So can we do this on this? Like,
That was pretty shocking.
how old are you?
I was born in 74, November 2nd, 1974, so I'll be 49
Okay. So I'm
this
46.
year, coming up right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, this is a testament to the power of the Shivambhu because you have, like, almost 0 gray hair, I don't even see any,
Well, I had no,
and
I've got some,
I'm like,
a
the
little bit.
reversing isn't really happening. I'm like, "Am I going white faster?" Like, what's happening?
Well, this is the other thing, who knows? But this is, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I do have some white hairs, but I don't have as many as most of my contemporaries. But
Yeah.
the other, so one of the people who's worked with me, who's now like 64, 65,
Mm,
he's been doing urine therapy for 2 years. Oh, he had short hair, which is easier to work with than long hair, but he started putting Evolved on his head every day. And he did that for
mhm.
probably at least 8, 9 months. And multiple people noticed his hair darkened.
Wow.
Now, it didn't get rid
I
of every
only
bit of
use
gray.
I only use well, a mix. I mean, sometimes it's fresh, sometimes it's evolved in my hair.
Yeah. But this is the thing when you say, like, I too, I didn't from 2019 until June of this year. So, like, almost again, like 4 years, I didn't travel either, other than to take someone to an airport an hour and a half away from here. Like, I drove to the airport and I
Yeah,
drove back. That was it.
yeah.
4 years, I didn't go anywhere. And I traveled in June for the first time. And
Wow.
again, people who hadn't seen me in 5 years, 6 years, and they too went, you look the same or better. Like, weren't what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And a lot of people went the really hard the other way, actually.
yeah,
This has been a hard time for a lot of people.
yeah,
Like, you can see the emotional toil and,
yeah,
there's a lot of division and, just because of all of the lies and people coming into more understanding than others and people becoming more lost into the soup than others, and you can really feel it in people. It really brings your awareness of that in other people out
yes.
when you're a Shivambu, you
Well,
really see it.
because you're self-sourced
Yeah.
and you feel a lot more like, well, I can take care of myself.
It's so empowering. You feel, like, really safe in your own body
Yeah.
when you do this long term.
Hmm.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's true. Hmm.
Well, let's do this again
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
into it, and I'm just gonna throw this, recording up on my channel, and, I'll maybe edit chunks out of it for shorts later, but I don't care that it's long. I love these long conversations about plasma.
Great. Well, it was so lovely to meet you in
Yeah,
person this time. And
same. Thank you for
yeah.
everything you do and share and all
Mm.
the light you bring to everyone around you.
Thank you so much. And for you as well. I'm going to try the reducing
Yeah,
and I will
and
get back to you.
try it on your salad dressing.
Love it.
I actually used some of it. I left it out with a little cover on it, like even though it's already reduced, I left it out with a little cover on it and it got like even more reduced. And then I actually put it on my lips
Mm,
because I had a cold sore actually. And I was like, wow, this tastes so good. And I was trying to convince, I was like, I wanted to give someone a kiss so they could experience my evolved and dehydrated But you really, then I was like, oh, man, this is a food thing. This has got to go on my salad later or
Yeah.
whatever. Like
It's an,
tasty.
I do have a couple people who really feel they've reversed the um, cold sore virus.
Yeah, I feel like it's happening. I feel like this is actually a stress thing,
Mm,
um, partially
yeah.
for me. I don't get them really. It's not the same. It's like they've changed
Mm-hmm.
in a way. But yeah, this move, I'm really excited to be moving closer so that we're not like 7 a.m. But we're in totally opposite parts of the world right now. I'm really excited to be moving closer to
Yeah.
like back to North America
Yeah.
for these conversations. But um, yeah, I feel like they're gonna leave
Mm-hmm.
forever
Yeah. Yep. Things make their way
soon.
out. But again, time, right? How long did we have it to begin with?
Right.
This
Yeah.
pattern, call it a virus, call it a pattern, call it whatever you want, but like it's been there,
Yeah.
it's been a pattern.
I really feel like it's strongly, all of these things that we call viruses are strongly attached to the strength of our immune system and what our immune system is going through,
Mhm.
and then our like emotional state. And yeah,
Well, and then we can
moving
get
from
in.
here is a big deal for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, moving is stressful anyway, but I just wanted to say then we can also get into you asked the question about was there anything that where people wouldn't I wouldn't recommend Shivambu and that you had listed things like UTIs and different things and we didn't even get into that discussion. So that's next time. But like I've treated UTIs and yeast infections with urine therapy only very successfully. Like a UTI gone in 6 hours.
Wow.
And I know like and there's a protocol that I go through that now and I've only had to do it twice, but I've also talked other people through it now and it's worked exactly the same way for them. So like I know that it it works,
This works. Mm,
but also that it's not just about why do we get these things in the first place and it's not
exactly.
it's immune system, sure, there's physical reasons, there's emotions, there's thoughts, but there's also I'm just gonna throw this out there and we can come onto it another time, but like I have also seen how the things that I'm going through physically are related to past life experiences. And to
Mm,
me, the urine therapy works in tandem with the deeper dive into the unconscious. Because if I'm working consistently with Shivambu and I hit a block where the Shivambu doesn't seem to be shifting it, I know that I have to go into the unconscious.
yeah, this is actually, you're hitting on a thing that is actually a really big deal for me because yeah, wholeheartedly resonate with that. And I'll save that conversation and story and experience for our next
Great.
conversation.
Me too. Perfect. All right. Thanks for hosting these. Thanks for spreading the word.
Mm,
So appreciative.
thank you. And
Till
we'll
next
talk to you
time.
again soon. We'll just say goodbye right here.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much, man.
Bye, Anna.
Bye.